I hope I will answer all of your question and that I let you understand the concept behind this plugin, which is interesting and quite simple. So it doesn't seem like other people are joining. We are 9 right now. So hi, everyone who has just joined. What's up on your side of the world? So we already have one question. Didier, like the French people say? Oh, it's more in English way, Didier. Yeah, Didier. Okay, great. Well, we are not limiting. This plugin doesn't apply any kind of limiting. It's a wave shaper, so it's sort of like Planner. Planner is more like of a soft clipper. So you got a straight line as the ratio between input and output. And at certain point, it starts to get banded like an E until it reaches a ceiling. This is a soft clipper. Thrust has a soft clipper, but it works a little bit differently. In fact, it never has a linear ratio between input and output. It always has some kind of band that brings up the softer part of sound of the sound. For this reason, you get more loudness, basically. Tony asked if it's a bit like Waves Vocal Rider. No, not at all. Vocal Rider, it's more like our auto gain, in which it rides the level of one track to keep it in level aligned with a certain reference value. May it be an external reference or an internal one. This is so 5 minutes after the beginning of the webinar, so we can actually start the real webinar. So HoRNet Thrust, maybe everybody knows that already. This is not our original idea. It's a clone of a very famous plugin. I won't tell his name, but has been used on countless records and it's been out for almost 15 years. And it's used to inflate the sound so everybody knows what we are talking about. And this plugin actually is a wave shaper, like I was explaining before. And so it's not a limiter and it's not a clipper. You can enable the clipper inside Thrust, but if you don't enable the clipper, you are actually never clipping the signal. That means that the signal always follows a certain relationship between input and output, and it's never abruptly cut off. So it's more of a gentle band between input and output. So if you imagine you have the input on the x coordinate of your graph and the output on the y, x and y, sorry, I was talking in Italian, x and y coordinates. So you got, when you have a certain input, if there is a linear relation, you have the same level as output. But with this plugin, we got some kind of band as a transfer curve. So if, for example, we have negative 10 dBs and inputs, we, depending of the parameters of the plugin, but we may have, for example, negative 8 dBs on output, because it follows not a linear response and tries to raise the level of the low and average this part of the signal, so it's always upfront and reducing the dynamic range, but not introducing artifacts that a limiter may introduce, because we don't have a time constant. We don't have, it doesn't work with like a compressor with attack and release, or with a limiter with its attack and release too, even if the attack is almost infinite in the limiter, and almost zero, sorry. So it's cleaner by a certain point of view, and it's dirtier by another because it introduces harmonics. For this reason, we have added the oversampling that the original unit does not have. So let me see the comment. I have in hardware the SSL 611 compressor, and this compressor make the sound more in front of your face. The thrust seems to be make the sound in your face. It's my feeling when I use it. Then I wonder if it had coloration and harmonics. Yes, it's a wave shaper. So a wave shaper always had harmonics, but since it doesn't have attack and release, it doesn't have a time constant, it does not introduce intermodulation distortion. That is something that every compressor and limiter does. Of course, there is a limit to the amount of gain of loudness you can reach with this processor. Sorry, you will still need a limiter probably to get to the point of competitive modern loudness. But if you use it on final mix, and that's the demonstration I'm going to do, or on buses, it can improve overall loudness fairly easy. Yes, Tony asked if it colors the sound. Yes, definitely. It's a wave shaper, so whatever you pass your audio through, anything that is not linear as a transfer function, it colors the sound. It's the same coloration you get from overdriving analog gear, for example. If you overdrive analog transistor-based gear, like an Eve console, for example, you get a nice warm sound because you are actually adding harmonics all over the place, and a little bit off shelf because of the age of the console. So you get a more warm, a more full sound because of the nonlinear transfer function. So I will share my screen and jump into the UI so I can explain every part of the processor. Let's see. It's the first time I use this new version of Zoom, so I don't know how it actually works. Share screen. Let me see if it works fine. There. Okay. Perfect. Pierre, can you see me? Okay. Oh, so share computer sound, stereo. Okay. Why it's not working? No, it is. Let me bring up the chat again. Okay, I can see everything now. If I press play, let me know if you hear any sound, please. Great, great. So, okay, so it's working, it seems. So I will put on my headphones now, from now on. Okay. I am not using any kind of headphone correction, so just put your headphones on or use quality monitor, because some of the parameters are quite subtle, like the loudness parameter, and you have to listen carefully to understand what it's doing. So let me know when everybody is ready, and I'll try to explain the plugin. So on From left to right, we have the input, the processor parameters, and the output. Basically, if you are using this plugin in the mastering situation, like we are doing now, you will never touch the output because you don't want to get over 0 dB. For safety, we can go like negative 0.5 dBs. So we never reach 0 dB. We're gonna have a little bit of a safety overhead for our converters. So what you have here, input, it's just a fader, as you probably have understood. It goes from 12 dB of gain down to negative 12. And it lets you adjust the input to the processor. This is quite important because we don't have any ceiling, so we need to use the input to get to the processor at the right level. Then we have the effect slider. It's actually dry wet, the dry wet control. So Tony asked, if you boost the input, will the output always stop it from clipping? Yes, this plugin never reaches, when the effect is 100%, I mean, never reaches more than 0 dBs, because if even if clip is off, like is right now, everything that goes above 0 dB gets reduced by the transfer function of the wave shaper, so will never goes above 0 dB. It may happen that something like short peaks or very high signal may end up above the 0 dB, but something like 0.2 or 0.3 dBs over, so it's not a big deal, but we have the clipper for this reason. And we are going to use the effect at 100% here because we want to get the final level of the sound of the track. So I want to have full effect. Then I want to enable the clipper because I want to be sure that nothing goes above my 0 dBs and in turn my negative 0.5 dBs. This is because I'm mastering the track. And when this is enabled, there is a hard clipper in the path, so no over is allowed. This other button here is a multiband. When this is enabled, the signal is first split in 3 different bands using standard crossover filters, the same you find in speakers. It's the same approach. And they are low phase distortion filters, so the phasing issue is reduced at minimum. And you get then 3 different processors applied to low, mid, and high, so that every single processor can breathe more and not be that saturated. It's quite effective. It's more effective on master buses than on instrument buses. And so I will show you the difference. I first do it with multiband disabled, and then I enable that. Then we have the delta that will let you hear the difference between the original signal and the processed one. I had to admit, it's much more useful with low level of curve parameter. If you use high level of curve, you're not gonna hear that much difference. We have an on-off switch for the processor and the oversampling. For the first demonstration, I will turn it off so we don't have oversampling enabled, and we are working like the original plugin we cloned. Clipper enable. We won't use the loudness parameter, just the curve, because the original unit doesn't have the loudness parameter. So I will press play now and use the curve. I suggest you turn down the volume of the headphones or speakers because when I will increase the curve parameter, the level will of course get louder. So let's first see the levels in the UFS for this track and manipulate the curve parameter. So it's not loud at all. We are at negative 26, so it's very low in level. And now I'll start to increase the curve parameter. So what we are doing right now, at this point, the transfer function is almost linear. It's not linear because if we enable the delta, listen, you can hear some crackling because there are differences between the input and output signal. It's not completely linear with the curve set to 0, but if we increase that, we increase the band between the x and y coordinates. Instead of being linear, we are actually increasing the band like this, and so we are increasing the level in the mid-range part of the level distribution, let's say. So let's hear with the delta enable. You starting hearing more because there is more difference between the original and the processed signal. Okay, usually I never go above 80 because on full mixes, because I think above 80s I start losing definition for the drums. So disable the delta. And we are now at, okay, we gained something like 7 dBs or something like that, just using the curve parameter and setting it to 80 or so. And this is already great because we have not increased the input level to the processor. We have just changed the relationship between the different level of the song. So when the signal was not on top but was in the middle, we lifted it up to get more loudness without compressing that. So now what we're gonna do is to increase the input, because you see we are far away from 0, so we can increase the input and get even more loudness. So we are 9 dBs of gain into, sorry, I don't think you can hear me now, so I will lower my master. Can you hear me? Great. And if I reset my meter, we got from negative 26 to negative 11, which is quite amazing if you think about it, without compressing or clipping the signal. Well, we actually are clipping, but I can disable the clipper and it's not that different. But as you can hear, we still have some definition, so we can, this song is ending, so I will raise the master again so you can have a listen to the song. The drums especially are still defined, so we can, I think we can get a little bit more loudness from the inputs and maybe from the curve. Let's try it out. Let's reset. Okay, it's negative 11. We can get something more, enable the multiband processing. because the multiband allow us to heat the processor even hotter without risking to compromise transients. So I will add a couple of dB more. Let's get back to the chorus. We can still hear the kick and the snare quite fine. So let me reset. And we are at -9 LUFS, starting from -26. And we still have definition. Have a listen. It's quite, I think it's quite amazing, but we have also some new controls, the loudness one, which can allow us to get even more loudness out of this processor. I will stop the music so I can explain you what this fader does. Exactly, this fader is a modulator. So when it has 0, it has no effect on the sound. For positive value, you got a positive modulation. For negative values, you got a negative modulation. And it's driven by the output of a K filter, which is the same filter used in front of a loudness meter to simulate the hearing of us as human. So its output, it's higher on those frequencies where the human hearing is more sensible. Thanks to this, we can manipulate the curve parameter according to the frequencies where our ear is more sensible. So we can get more perceived loudness without actually not compressing, but squashing the signal that much, because we are actually doing that only on those areas where our ear is more sensible, so we can hear them better. I'll let you hear the difference because it's not day and night, but it helps us to get even more loudness. So this is the track, and if I increase this fader, you see the loudness meter down below, it's increasing, and you can perceive more the mid-range of the track. Look at the short term. We are at -8.8, 8.7. And if I set the loudness at 100%, we got -8.4. So we got half dB, almost half dB with this slider alone. And of course, it depends on the type of sound and the amount of mid-range you have and the level of the curve parameter, of course, because it can never go up more than 100. So if we modulate it higher than 100, it's gonna stay at 100. So let's say I can reduce the curve 1 and use loudness to get more loudness. So we got the same loudness we had, but with a lower level of the curve parameter. So we sacrifice less uh, the, the transients and of the signal. We maintain the original dynamic range more, just increasing the saturation. Let's call it saturation on those areas where the ear is most sensible. And this was with the clipper turned off. I will turn it on. And thanks to the loudness parameter, I can get, I think, 1 or 2 dB more. I think we are at the maximum 12. Maybe I should increase the source. Let's try to reset this and see what we got. So we are at negative 7.7 starting from negative 26. Remember this. We were starting at negative 26 just with this processor without using any limiting. We got a professional level. We got a commercial level competitive. And we also have the oversampling to make it clear, because of course we are introducing a lot of harmonics with this processor. Thanks to the oversampling, we make it sound more clean. I will set it to auto, which is the default setting that, according to the sample rate, gives you always enough bandwidth to process the signal with minimum aliasing applied. And so in this case, we are 44K. So we are actually working at 8-time oversampling, which is the maximum. If I was working at 96, for example, I would just have got a 4-time oversampling from the auto, and so on. So let's see. Let's see if we can hear any difference between oversampling on and off. Pay attention especially to the high range of the guitars and the cymbals and the snare. With the oversample on, you got a more natural and 3D sound. If we turn it off, we get a more plastic and digital sound. This is because the aliasing we are generating with no oversampling is folding back into the spectrum, into the audible spectrum. This is better shown, of course, by numbers. Let me see if I can manage to show you something with. I haven't tested this, so I'm not sure it will work. But let me see if I can show you the effect of the oversampling with plugin doctor. So it's jumping in the dock, and we got the plugin. Okay, Thrust was already loaded. It's the last plugin I tested on plugin doctor. So let it wait to load, because it's not loading for some reason. I think just CPU overload, because it's not closing the UI. Okay, very nice. Okay, we got it. Let's try to open it again. And see if we can make it work. No, we can't. So be a little bit patient with me. I will make it work, because I want to show you the different amount of aliasing that we got with different anti-alias and oversampling levels. Let me try to close Reaper first. Maybe this is the problem. No, I got the screen. Great. Everything is terribly slow. I want the VST3 plugins. Okay, this is the IX. So I need to go to library. Is this my own library? No, it's not. So not managing to do this. Okay. Let me stop sharing my screen for a moment because this is slowing everything down, and I'll get back to you in a second so I can show you what I mean with the amount of aliasing. Have a little bit of patience. And Pluggy Doctor also crashed, so very nice. EST3, HoRNet Thrust. Okay, I got it. Let me share the screen once again. Okay. Okay, here we are. Is it working? Can you see the screen once again? Perfect, 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 perfect. Okay, so if we do, come on, go away. Okay. If we do an harmonic analysis, okay, we got 1 kilohertz. Let's say, for the sake of seeing it better, let's say 100 hertz signal. Okay, we are clean now because we are not applying any kind of distortion. And if I set the curve parameter to 100% and the effect parameter to 100% and no oversampling, we don't get any output from the plugin. Nice. Okay, it's not working like I would like. But you can see this is completely clean. Okay, when I turn off oversampling, I lose the sound. Nice, interesting. Who knows why? But for example, if I use a test signal with a high frequency, 4 kilohertz, for example, you should see it up here. And I have 2 times oversampling. You see, we got something below. This shouldn't be here because no signal is generated by our plugin, by plugin doctor below this spike here. So this means that we have aliasing. And if we go at higher level of oversampling, this is reduced. And this is exactly what the oversampling does. So it's quite important to have oversampling when you're doing wave shaping or clipping. And if I go to the dynamics module, I can also show you the curve of the plugin. Let me use a lower level. Okay, you see, when the input is negative 30 dB, the output is actually something like negative 23. And as we approach the 0 dB, it gets flatter. In real time, maybe, because it's speed ultra, so it's using as much CPU as possible. And it's messing up our webinar. But anyway, you see, it gets flatter as we approach the 0 dB. So let me close this software because it messes up everything. Hopefully, you've been able to see what I meant with the aliasing and the oversampling feature of the plugin, which are important. So let me know if everybody is on the same page and if we understood what we're talking about. And I'm not sure I'm sharing the computer sound again, because I want you to concentrate on the high frequency. Okay, I think you can hear the sound, right? Perfect. Okay, so now just concentrate on the high end of the high frequency of the music, and try to perceive the difference between no oversampling and oversampling enabled. Can you hear it on the snap of the snare, for example? It's much more natural and 3D with oversampling turned on. You are losing, you are using more CPU, but you get a more good result. So I think this is quite important. And I will leave it to auto for my mastering now, and let you hear the difference between multiband on and off. And when I turn it off, it gets a little bit more congested, the sound. You can clearly hear the distortion with multiband off because we are passing all the audio through the same processor. While in multiband, we are splitting low, mid, and highs, and every every of the three processor have more headroom to do its job. So when I turn it on, the distortion goes away. So this is it. There's not much more to say unless we can turn it off the clipper and see what happens. You see, now we got overs up here because we have very high level in inputs, and without the clipper turned on, the wave shaper is not enough by itself to keep everything below 0 dB. But with the clipper, we got our safety control. And of course, if I turn it off, you can hear the original sound. I think it's nice because we got the loudness we wanted, because we are at -8, around -8 at the UFS, and this is our target. And we got it without using limiting. It's just a clever use of a wave shaper. And if it's the sound it's too distorted for your application, because this is a distortion in the end, it's a wave shaper, you can use lower effect or a lower effect amount and use a limiter afterwards. So I can disable the clip and say I want to 70%. So now, of course, I have overs and the signal is cleaner. And then I can say, where is my Magnus Mark III? Okay. I will disable the clipper and I only use the limiter. You see how much is working? With look ahead, of course, it's cleaner. This is a louder model. But you have the snare, that is more squashed, so a clipper is necessary in this situation. I will use this one from Magnus, and we'll use a soft clipper. Just kissing the clipper, so I'm shaving off the peaks of the snare, basically. But we are using two processors, and you can hear the pumping of the limiter, and I'm not sure we're getting a better result than what we got simply using our clipper, internal clipper here, and an effect at 100%. And it's at the same level. And I think it has more impact and it's cleaner. Honestly prefer this. So this is the product HoRNet Thrust, and I don't know if you have questions. I think I also shown the difference between a limiter clipper combo like our Magnus Mark III and this other one, which is a completely different since it's a wave shaper. So if you have any question, let me know. Okay, so Didier has a question. The multiband mode affect less the low frequencies, and another question, where I might place this plugin in the final chain or before the limiting brick wall? Okay, I will use it just before the brick wall limiter if you want to use one just to be safe. And I will use it to get more loudness where you would usually use a simple clipper because it's a more advanced kind of clipper, let's say. And when you enable multiband mode, what happens is that you got 3 different processors in parallel, only working on a small fraction, let's say, of the signal, and then they are combined back together. This creates less peaks for the processor to work on, and it allows each of the 3 processors to work with lower level signal, giving it in the end more loudness with less distortion. I don't know if I clearly explain what I was meaning. The trade-off with multiband mode is that since you are splitting the signal and then combining back together, we are actually changing a little bit of the frequency spectrum, because on the crossover intersection, you got a little bit of a dips, and you also are creating some little phase intermodulation distortion. But in a very busy mix like this, you cannot really hear that. So it's a matter of trying the effect and see if it's correct with multiband or without. With multiband, usually you can get more loudness, but you have a trade-off. So do you have any other question? Okay, so if you want to try the plugin and you don't have it, we have a demo. You can go on our website, www.hornetplugins.com, and you can find the demo for this plugin. Of course, if you like it, you can get it. And because you assisted to this webinar, we are going to send you a 10% discount code on this plugin, so you can get it, saving a little bit, even if it's cheaper. It's cheap. It's a cheap plugin. It's very affordable. It's just 15 euros, but you can get it even for less. So thank you very much for joining me tonight, this morning. It depends where are you from. Here it's 8 p.m. So I'm going to have a dinner, and I hope you will have wonderful rest of the day wherever you are. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.